Hello and welcome. And today we are talking about Ghana's oil and gas from exploration till date. Now one would ask, did it come as a surprise? If not, did we prepare as a nation so that indeed when this oil comes we were well positioned to take full advantage of this final blessing, as I may call it? In the past, our forefathers discovered gold, some discovered diamond, timber, bauxite, and all along generations have found one mineral or the other. The best we can do is, as soon as we find it, dig it up and ship it out. And lo and behold, we have been blessed with oil. The best kind of oil you can find in any other country. And we are finding out, or today we are discussing, that from when that oil was discovered till today, as a nation, what have we done? How have we positioned ourselves to take full advantage of? When I come back, I will introduce my guest and the conversation will begin. My name is Nana Ansakwa and this is PM Express. Well, hello and welcome. It's an interesting discussion this evening. I'm just trying to find out from when we decided to explore for oil and when we found it till today, as a nation, how have we positioned ourselves to fully take advantage of it and all the ups and downs in the middle? Now, obviously, if I'm going to talk about oil and gas, then I'm talking to my own brother, Kwame Jantwa, who's a lawyer and also an oil and gas expert. Also a nice CPP, fine gentleman. Kwame, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, joining us on the phone, and I'm sure they will let me when he comes, but joining us on the phone will be Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who's a former energy minister and current chairman of Parliamentary Select Committee on Mines and Energy. He's also an authority on this subject. But I'll start with Kwame. Kwame, when did we start looking for oil, in Ghana?
Well, good evening to our viewers. Oil exploration started in Ghana way in the 1960s.
Wow. When
Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our first president, wanted to see whether we had oil. So he brought in the Russians. And the exploration they did was more onshore than offshore. They did some seismics and realized, yes, there was oil, but at the time, you had the Cold War, we didn't have the money to go into.
So at that time, we knew there was oil?
Yes, at that time, we knew there was oil. And they capped all those wells. Now, recently, the Russians have even come back to Ghana and said, look, we've got all the details for your onshore oil and gas.
Hold on, they found the wells and capped them?
Yeah, they capped them. They capped them.
For later use?
Yes, for later use.
Okay.
Well, we didn't have the wherewithal to do it. And in that period, there was the Cold War between Russia and America, and Ghana had a non-aligned policy, but the Americans...
Let me just acknowledge Dr. Kwabena Donkor and then we'll continue. Doc, good evening and welcome to the show. Hello, Doctor. Dr. Kwabena Donkor.
Hello.
Good evening and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very well. Kwame is just making a submission, then I will come back. I'll come to you.
Okay.
Good evening, my brother, Doctor.
Good evening, my senior brother.
Oh, senior. I cannot be your senior.
Okay, so the Russians found the wells
and
capped them.
And they capped them because we didn't have the wherewithal to do it. But
in the 60s?
Yes, but throughout the 70s, offshore started. A lot of companies came in, tried to explore oil, but also found nothing. But then, in recent times, when technology advanced, that is when they came back, and Cosmos then found oil 2007 in Ghana.
So the wells that have been capped by the Russians, where are they?
Oh, onshore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're onshore. Ghana's onshore map stems right from Keta, right through Afram Plains, Ashanti, and right up to the upper west. So 3/4 of Ghana's landmass is said to be covered in oil and gas. And I know at the present moment, GMPC is looking at doing 2D seismics, and probably in the next 2 years we will start hearing blocks being farmed out for interested parties to explore oil and gas onshore.
I see. That's news to me.
Okay. Okay.
That's news to me. Dr. Conrad, don't go. Hello, doctor.
Hello, I'm with you.
Good, good, good. Doctor, we're just trying to find out when Ghana, obviously started looking for oil to date and how we have positioned, ourselves. Now, I know that we have one of the good laws when it comes to oil and gas, but I would ask, is it enough?
Well, it depends on what we are looking at and what we intend getting from the resource.
Well, let me take you back again. Almost every mineral that we have found in the nation, the best we can do is send it out in the same state. And the best is actually the more you can get, you've done well. We don't add any value. If you can mine 1 ton of gold today, next year if you send 3 million tons, it means you did well because you're able to send more out. So when we look at the oil, where are we positioned, to say that, well, we're doing better than in the other areas? Well,
I wouldn't want to say we're doing better. What we have done better so far is the regulatory framework. As we speak, we've produced gold for over 100 years. Our mining and mineral laws are still some of the weakest you can find around.
Okay.
And apart from they being weak, we don't even have the will to implement the weak ones we have. The Minerals Commission as a regulator has been a major failure. And because, as we said, over 20 companies are mining one form or the other in Ghana without the mining leases being ratified by Parliament, contrary to both the Constitution and the Mining and Minerals Act. So yes, you can have good laws on the books, but the will to implement is another thing. So it depends on what you're looking for. I am more interested even in the gas than in the crude oil.
I was going to come back I'll come to the gas, but let me come to Kwame and then I'll come to you. Kwame, we found oil in what, 2007.
And we started actual production on the 15th of December 2010. That was when inauguration was and production actually officially started.
So approximately, let's say 3 years.
3 years.
Now, maybe I want both of you to answer this question. Now, could we have, within 3 years, positioned Tor in such a way that it could use some of that oil? Could we have?
Ghana is one of the countries that have explored and produced oil within this short duration of time. What the oil companies Cosmos and Tullow did would normally take 6 to 10 years to do. Hence, we are now catching up in terms of getting our regulations together, in terms of even building capacity for our people and for our companies to get into the oil and gas industry. When we drafted the local content policy, the local content policy was drafted basically on ownership and equity. When I say ownership and equity, geared towards companies, Ghanaian companies. When you take the Norwegian policy and you take a Norwegian local content, theirs was drafted towards establishing businesses within the country, which could hire technical people. So when you go to Norway, most of their oil and gas businesses, you can hire people, ordinary people, to get into it. We have concentrated more on companies. Now, it's a shame we haven't built the kind of capacity for companies to also take over. But it will come. We're only 3 years, let's face it. It's only 3 years in the oil industry. But we need to accelerate that if we want to take a certain commanding height in our oil industry today.
Doc.
Hello.
I'll put the same question to you. I mean, 2007, you know that this product is going to come. 3 years later, the product comes. Do we still have an excuse to say, well, it's too short, so we'll catch up later? or should we have positioned ourselves to at least take 10-15% of the business when it eventually happens?
Well, in life we make choices, and choices we make have consequences. When as a nation we decided to put the discovery on fast track, that was bound to have consequences. As my brother said, we had not completed our regulatory frameworks. The various rules and regulations were not in place. And let me publicly acknowledge the foresight that went into our EMP law 1984, PNDC law 84. And PNDC law 84 was crafted in 1984. The fact that we still rely on it today, albeit with its shortcomings, goes to the foresight that the crafters of the law had in 1984. Having said that, society is dynamic. Rules and regulations are dynamic. And then we started from a low point compared to the Norwegians. Sometimes it is important for us to make that distinction, especially when we are dealing with the public.
But may you, what's PNDC law 84, if you could?
Pardon?
PNDC law 84, what does it say?
It is the exploration and production law.
Okay, okay.
That is the one we want to replace this year.
Okay.
Yeah. The Norwegians had an industrial base before they found oil. They were also a seafaring nation before they found oil. So they had a lot of dry docks, they had a lot of shipbuilding capability. So converting them, and then in Norway, we're also talking about shallow water, relative, the North Sea, a shallow water environment. So converting the dry docks, the shipbuilding facilities they had to build platforms wasn't too difficult. However, there's still a lot we can learn from them. And for me, the most important thing we can learn from Norway is that they say in Norway, oil and gas is above partisanship. So they go all out to establish a consensus, a national consensus on oil and gas policy. And that is the biggest thing we can learn. And therefore, there's predictability in the environment for investors. Norway is a high-tax country. And yet, companies are prepared to invest there because of the predictability. We haven't decided that we're going to adopt the fast-track approach. We are short-circuited certain things. And there's always a price to pay. But as it is, we are now also producing, even though we are minor players. Let's not pretend we are a player. Averaging 100,000 barrels a day is in the minor league. South Sudan produces 350,000. So ours is in a minor league. But there is an opportunity for us to build potential for the future. And I would be against our going to the Botean Basin in the next 3 years until we learn the appropriate lessons and build capacity from our offshore activities. GNPC can start doing a bit of desktop research, to check up on the geography. But in terms of real production, we should leave the ocean. We should leave the Botean Basin away for now, concentrate offshore. First, we build capacity. If we don't build capacity, and it's not benefit Ghanaians, and it will only benefit Ghanaians if Ghanaians take command in interest.
Doc, please, if you can reposition yourself, your line is a bit cracking.
Yeah. For example, if I had my way, any company in the extractive sector, any multinational in the extractive, any multinational in the extractive sector within 5 years of production, it should be posted on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
Doc, I'm really losing your line. You used to be clear in the beginning, but I'm losing you. If you can reposition yourself, because you're making a very good point.
Now? Is it better now?
I think so. Let's try.
Yeah, I'm saying that, for example, any multinational foreign company in the extractive industry should be floated on the Ghana Stock Exchange within 5 years of production. So that indigenous Ghanaians can participate in equity shareholding. But we also need to consciously set out an industrial policy so that the extraction of this resource would be aligned to our industrial policy. If we don't do that, we are wasting our time and depleting our resources, and the future generation will hold us to account.
Thank you. Let me bring Kwame. Kwame, you seem to be agreeing that we shouldn't touch the Volta until we are, solidly on the ground before we mine that.
You see, one of the key factors of accelerating our oil production was money. The fact that at that time we were in HIPIC, the fact that we needed money to invest in infrastructure and all that kind of stuff. But we should be very, very careful where the Voltairean Basin is concerned. Because where the Voltairean Basin is concerned, you are actually taking people's livelihoods away from them depending on where you place your oil rigs or depending on who you give what. The other thing has got to do with our natural resources onshore. We have gold, agriculture is one, and now oil. How do we do it? So, you have an area where there's gold and there's oil. What do? Do you decide to mine gold instead of oil? Do you decide to use an agricultural field instead of oil, as we are seeing with Galamsey today? These things, we should start talking about them now. And I do agree with Dr. Donko that not unless we have a concise national development plan where we can target our revenues well, where we know exactly what is what and where is where and where we're going, is going to be very, very difficult. And yes, for me, the Voltairean Basin should be left for Ghanaians alone. Because we need to build capacity. We cannot build capacity with the international IOCs, the international oil companies. How many people do they train at a go? We need to be able to build capacity within ourselves. And in so doing, we need to give incentives to most of our people in the oil industry around the world who have the expertise. Give them the incentives to come back home, as Trinidad and Tobago did, to come back home so that they can train our people, they can train the companies, so that within a certain duration of time, even if we have 5% of the oil industry, it will benefit us, it will benefit our banks, because most of the monies that we would earn, majority will stay in our banks than having it, go out of the country as is being done today by the IOCs.
Doctor, I'm coming to you. I'm going to go to the gas, but I want to hold on the gas a little bit. Let's focus on the crude oil. Is there any way we could equip TOR so that it can refine some of the, crude found within our shores, or it's an absolute no-no?
So, TOR is capable of refining our crude. And in any case, the framers of PNC or 84 exercised a lot of foresight in creating what we call local supply obligations. The Minister of Energy exercises the local supply obligation imposed on the contractors, can decide that they supply a certain quantity of oil refinery. We have the legal power to do that. What that will mean will be the oil refinery will buy our crude at prevailing world market price. It means some will have to syndicate a facility that will enable and pay for the crude. That will have domestic supply obligation, the petroleum agreement. So it is a matter of us sorting out an oil refinery, making it work, and getting Ghanaian banks to syndicate a facility. We will save money because the issue of freight at the very least would save.
I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, I want to re-emphasize that if I'm hearing right, that the laws that we can buy if we have the capacity to refine it. Stay tuned. Ghana's oil and gas exploration from then till now. Just want to find out how prepared we were before we found it, and what we are doing. But just before we went, Dr. Kwabena Donko said something, and I really want him to reiterate it if possible. Doc, are you there?
Yes, please.
Very good. Doc, you see, I put a question that, is there any way we can position Tor so we can buy some of our sweet crude? Did you say yes?
Yes. I do. There are enough provisions in the petroleum agreement between Ghana and the Jubilee partners to enable us to do that. The only reason that we are not refining Ghana crude is because of the internal challenge Tor has. And then once that is resolved, the minister which is responsible for petroleum can invoke the process in the PA, and then the Jubilee partners will have to supply Tor. The legal framework is in place.
Economically, is it wise to refine, or is it cheaper to just go and buy someone's and just be done with it?
No, it will be wiser to refine. First of all, because the product is within Ghanaian waters, the freight will be far lower than importing even from our nearest import point of Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So there is some economics there. Secondly, we'll be building indigenous technological capacity. As workers work, the skills are improved every day. And it makes us a stronger nation if we refine our own crude. Our economics, our politics become more internally consistent than the present situation where, for example, in 2013, Tor provided only 20% of Ghana's finished product requirements. Tor provided at least 40% if Tor was properly set up and was working. We should be aiming at getting Tor back to work and expanding Tor so that at least Tor can meet all of our key petroleum requirements and then also leave some for export. The partners will not lose if the product is refined in Tor, because we are obliged to buy at prevailing world market price. Mm-hmm. Even if we buy at prevailing world market price, we save money on freight, and that is important.
And the partners would also save money on freight.
So, well, I don't know about they saving money, but I know of Ghana saving money.
Of course. I mean, Kwame, you are into the business. I mean, how technical is it to equip Tor to refine sweet crude? I mean, because now I'm sure they don't have the technical capability to refine this type of crude. How technical is it?
We have one of the best technical people handling Tor. Unfortunately, most of them have gone to Saudi Arabia because of the situation we find Tor in at the present moment. But Nana, if I would say, we've played politics with Tor for far too long, and the political will really isn't there to get Tor up and going. That political will has to be there. There are certain areas of the economy that you cannot mess with, that we should not play politics with at all. Petroleum is one of them. Do you know how much it costs to bring a vessel of AGO, which is diesel, into the country? $30 million that the BDCs have to find to be able to bring petroleum into this country. The freight alone, and even the upfront payment you have to pay when it gets here, when the vessel is at the key point of offloading. If it goes one day over the laycan period is given, it's a lot of money. Why do we want to go through that? Why do you want to spend this kind of money? So I think it's incumbent on any government. And you see, this is the way we should have done it. Any government comes in, they do a little. Any government comes in, they do a little. So that by 10 years, we would have a huge refinery that can not only refine Ghana's oil, but can also refine oil from other West African countries. Equatorial Guinea has a huge capacity where oil and gas is concerned. we can refine their oil. Even Nigeria, we can refine their oil and get added value for Tor. At the present moment, what is Tor doing? What is Tor doing? Yes, they can handle the capacity of LPG, but LPG is a growing commodity throughout West Africa. That's a niche on its own. With the gas infrastructure coming in, it's a niche on its own. So I would hope that governments coming in now, and even with the present government, we would look to expand Tor. Forget all that has happened. Let's try and find money to bail out Tor as to where it's gone or what has happened to it. Because when Nkrumah built Tor, he knew it was for a certain duration of time. He knew as time went on, 10, 30 years, we would need to add to Tor. Have we done it? We haven't. And we are even lucky that Tor has existed to date now. I think Tor is a crucial point in the economy where petroleum is concerned for this country. Because we are bringing in, the moment oil prices go up, what happens? We see that we don't get petrol, we don't get diesel. And because we haven't built our infrastructure where railway is concerned, most of our agricultural commodities that are brought into the urban areas, even our cash crops that are brought into the ports, is based on roads. So it is key for us to develop Tor and make sure that Tor works for us.
But has Tor got the capacity to expand, or do we need to go and find another land somewhere and build a new Tor there?
Well, there's encroachment right now. There's encroachment around Tor. But yes, we can expand it. If it so happens that we say that, okay, we would get Tor to run full capacity and even build another refinery, say in Takoradi. Why not? Why not? Nowadays, there are modular refineries everywhere where they can be broken down and then put up within a few months or years. So we need to invest into that, because at the present moment, the moment the petroleum prices rises, we are in trouble. The moment we don't get LPG, we are in trouble. And we need to get away from that. And we need to stop this politics that we play with these commodities. Because for me, it affects the ordinary man. And it's the ordinary man who suffers.
Doctor?
Yeah, let me add to this and correct this information that is out there. The refinery and Nkrumah built it's not the refinery we have today. It's been added on. Okay. The capacity at the time was less than 30,000. Today we have 45,000 barrels. Apart from that, a catalytic converter has been added. Some improvements in terms of capacity and expansion are taking place over the years. However, we could have done far better than we have done. It's just for the for students of the industry. So, yeah, I thought I should correct that. Yes, but there's enough capacity in Tor to build another refinery currently within the premises of Tor and also expand the existing refinery. There is enough land that there are for. And technology today is like that you don't need a huge amount of land as you used to in the days gone by. But we have to take Tor very seriously. Tor is critical to our economy. Whether we like it or not, Ghanaians have adopted a car culture, largely because our public transport is broken down. And therefore, we will continue to see real growth in demand for fuel.
Doc, let me add something, because you mentioned economy. I mean, I look at the measures that Bank of Ghana is putting in because of the pressure on the cedi. I mean, this would be a huge saving on how much dollars you would need to buy the finished product.
Precisely. You see, on this dollar cedi issue, we have to have a short-term perspective, which Bank of Ghana, I believe, is putting in place. But more importantly, we need a medium and long-term perspective. We cannot continue to do things as we do them and expect different results. For example, we need an industrial policy. If we had a vibrant, internally consistent industrial policy in place, there's no way we'll allow the importation of water, toilet room, lubricant, and the rest. Whether the money is coming from the banking system or from the parallel market, it's still a drain on Ghana's dollar situation. So we need an industrial policy. We cannot continue with this laissez-faire attitude to economic management and expect that results will be automatic. For if you look at the developing countries that have made progress over the last 50 years, there is a certain consistency about the state direction as to where we want the economy to go. We need an industrial policy, and then within the industrial policy, the private sector will actualize the policy in terms of setting up entities. But without an overall central and general direction, we will be pulling at different angles and negating our efforts.
Okay, Kwame, let me bring you here, and I want to move, because once we found oil, then by all means, most likely you will get gas. Yeah. And per the contract that we signed, we keep the gas, they keep the oil. Yeah. We get some of the oil, and we have all the gas. Yeah. So it's 2014, and one will say, where's the gas?
Yes. If I may just add to what my big brother said, in addition to an industrial policy, we need a long-term energy plan. Korea have put in a 20-year long-term energy plan so that we can budget properly and we can add on as and when is required according to the plan. So that when there's change of government, it's not a question of you brought it so I don't like it so I'm dumping it, I'm doing something. Everybody knows what that plan is. I think that is important because energy, both liquid and power, is so instrumental to the development of this country, the development of any country, if we are going to get out of the doldrums we find ourselves in. Your next question was with regards to gas. That,
the deal was that when you find the oil, you take some, you give us some of the oil. But as for the gas, it's all ours.
Nana, it's got to do with this fast-tracking policy that we had. We definitely knew at the time that we had associated gas. Once oil was found, we knew that. We have a no-flaring policy. Now, having a no-flaring policy doesn't mean you wouldn't flare a certain percentage. Definitely, a certain percentage would be flared, but not all. So, what did we agree? That before we can actually take the gas, we would get the IOCs to re-inject some of that gas. But you see, if we didn't have this fast-track policy, if we were to do it the way every normal exploration is done, we would have been able to put our gas infrastructure in place. At the present moment, we are struggling to put that gas infrastructure in place.
Here is 85%
it's not 85%, it isn't. I'm sorry, I didn't bring the aerial view picture of the gas infrastructure today. It's not 85%. I saw in a newspaper, Public Agenda, that 59 days to go. It is not 59 days to go. The Minister of Energy has come out and he said that we would finish this gas infrastructure by the end of this year. But even after that is done, how long will it take to commission? Because you see, when gas fires start, you cannot stop it. It has to burn itself out. So we need to make sure that during the commission period, all these things are in place before we can even start the production. Yes, the pipelines have been done. All the 110-kilometer pipeline has been done. The pig inspections have been done. The fiber optics have been added to it so you can tell where it's where. And the connection between Tuabo and the thermal plant has also been done. But we need to make sure. And even the gas coming out from the Jubilee field is not going to be enough. So now we are thinking of bringing in LNG, liquefied natural gas, to augment it. All these things, should be in place before we can actually say that, yes, gas is flowing.
Doc, staying on the gas, and obviously we are expecting the Chinese to give us this money to build the gas, and the money is not coming as fast as we want. So what then? I mean, how long are they going to flare for, and what's the way forward?
Well, let me admit that the gas infrastructure has been a monumental project management failure. I'm sorry I have to say this.
That is true.
But that is the truth.
It's the truth.
That in terms of project management, as a nation, we have poorly managed the project. Considering that we claim the project will have been ready by December 2012, and we are in February 2014, and it is not yet ready. It's a monumental project management failure. There's no charitable way of putting it, and it's costing this country a lot of money. Currently, the Minister for Energy has given approval, subject to approval by EPA and the Petroleum Commission, for the Jubilee partners to flare. This is a precaution. They are not flaring yet, but contingency measures are being put in place. This is a new reservoir. We do not know all the characteristics of the reservoir because it's a frontier reservoir. And therefore, the continuous reinjection raises all of our temperature. Almost everybody in the industry is worried. Yet, we knew from the word go that we could only reinject for a defined period of time. So as a nation, on such major projects, in future we must get our act together, know what we want, and know what we want to get out of it.
I see. The other one, which
if I just add to it, there are technologies available where we can capture this gas on a barge. It is expensive. However, we need to explore it. Instead of flaring, why don't we do that? Yes, it will take some money to do, but the opportunity cost to that would benefit Ghana more than what we're trying to do now. Because if they keep re-injecting, it's going to break the pipes. It is definitely going to break the pipes.
So what you do, you're adding pressure to whatever it is down there?
Yes, because it helps in the production. But how long can you do that for? How long? You see, this is where I believe, and as Dr. Donko is saying, foresight and vision is so important in anything we do with such a project. The gas project is so fundamental to Ghana's oil and gas industry, because that is where you're going to get jobs for the people. You're going to get agriculture inputs. You're going to get all this ammonia and all these fertilizer. You can even, so many things you can do out of it. Petroleum, petrochemical industry, and all that. But we don't seem to be moving forward on it. Don't seem to, and I agree with Dr. Donko where he says it's been a management failure in handling this. And I don't know, government should take a second look at it and see how best we can correct all the ills that have happened with the gas infrastructure.
Doc, I come back to you. You see, the amount of money we are expecting from China to build the gas infrastructure, the oil, our oil is giving us more than that. I mean, did we need to go and borrow that money, or could we have taken the money from their oil and build this thing, in phases?
Be it as it may, a choice was made. But having made a choice, and every choice must come with its own contingency. Having realized that we're having problems with it, we ought to have looked at our contingency. What do we do? But let me also add to what my brother Antoine said. I am aware the Jubilee partners are considering looking at all options. Flaring is one of the options. There are other options they are also looking at. The FPSO has capacity to process a maximum 30 million standard cubic feet on the FPSO. So that they are looking at all other options. And I believe the Ministry of Energy and GNPC will ensure that in the context of the challenge, the least damaging option is adopted.
When we come back, I want to find out, within the gas industry, how are we positioning ourselves to take advantage? Stay tuned. We are looking at oil and gas, Ghana's oil and gas from exploration to date. How have we positioned ourselves as a country to take full advantage of it so that we don't fall in the same plight as we did with gold, diamond, timber, bauxite, manganese, even the fish industry. Everything that we got, we seem to have lost one way or the other. And I'm talking to Kwame Jantua, who's a lawyer, oil and gas expert in studio. And on the phone is Dr. Kwabena Donkor, who's a former Deputy Energy Minister and current chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Mines and Energy. And I'll start with Doctor.
Hello.
Doc, I just want to find out, how we have positioned ourselves to take advantage of the gas, since that is fully ours. Are we schooling our... Hello, Doc, can you hear me? Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. I was just trying to find out how we have positioned ourselves as a country to take full advantage of the gas industry. Are we training students? Are we training people who do washers? Because knowing gas is always going to leak and you need a washer here or there. Are we building the industry so that we can take advantage of this product?
Well, the advantage of gas is not just building human capacity. It's also putting in place the appropriate policies. For example, as we said, we need a distinct, unambiguous gas use policy, which to the best of my knowledge we don't have.
So as to whether it's going to be used for electricity or home use?
Gas has alternate uses.
Okay.
And look, all the gas we will have from Jubilee, if the gas infrastructure was ready, will not be enough to power all the generating assets in the Abuaze corridor, for example. So if we just allow things to move automatically, we will, in our usual short-term approach, put all the gas into power generation. But for me, that will be wrong, because we also have other uses for gas. I will want to see a policy that says, for example, 30% of our gas which will be dedicated to fertilizer production.
Okay.
We're an agrarian country. 60% of our population earn and live from agriculture. And productivity per hectare is relatively so low, likely because we apply very little fertilizer. So that if we dedicated some quantum of the fertilizer, of the gas fertilizer production, and we are able to sort that area out, a number of people will come out of poverty because of the multiplier effect and the direct impact.
I see.
Our generation, there are alternate fuels, and we should be courageous enough to discuss them. For example, there is no reason on earth why we should not generate using coal today. One, because coal is cheaper. With coal, we can generate at between 6 to 7 cents per kilowatt hour. We looked at the numbers.
Are you saying coal as in wood coal or coal as in mining coal?
No. Coal as a mineral.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, with non-associated parts, we are generating around 10 cents. And then today's technology is such that carbon emission is no longer what it was years ago. Indeed, in 2013, 39.9% of UK's total power generation was coal-based. Since the Japanese nuclear disaster, European countries in Europe and others are reverting to coal. So, if we can generate with coal at a lower rate, in terms of pricing,
may I ask
we
quickly,
should do it and reserve a lot more gas for fertilizer and other petrochemical uses. So we need a policy. We can debate the policy. At least that will have a national consensus on the way forward. That is critical.
just a quick one. Do we have coal in Ghana? Because I'm not sure.
We don't.
Oh, so we have to import it. Okay.
All the promise are done on imported coal.
Okay.
And it's still far cheaper. The only gas that is cheaper than coal is associated gas.
I see.
And that is the type of the segment of gas that I would prefer is used for fertilizer.
I see. Oh, Kwame, let me bring you in here. Kwame, now we're looking at revenues. I mean, we've earned a little from, our very little barrels of oil that we have mined, even though it's still like number 3 or number 2 in terms of revenue for the state. So for us, it's quite significant. If you ask me, that even though we are only doing 10,000-12,000 a day, the money we get for a state, it's quite significant. It is significant
when you compare the amount of money that have come in. We made 444 million in 2011, 541 million in 2012. Looking at our other natural resources, comparing it to this duration of time, would we have made that? So the money, the revenue coming in is very critical. But if I may add one thing to what Dr. Tonko said, I think it is key that the relationship between BOST, GNGC, and GMPC, that collaboration should be strengthened. Because at the present moment, BOST has given the mandate to pipeline, to build pipes throughout the country for our gas. GNPC are the actual owners of the gas. GNGC are the ones handling the gas infrastructure. What is happening? Because it doesn't seem that GNGC and BOST at the present moment are talking. And if we sit down and wait for it to go on and on and on, we get to a point where we are now at loggerheads. So I would plead with these 3 institutions, which would govern our infrastructure, our gas infrastructure and our gas production. They should please start talking now, so that there is a clear way as to do who's doing what, who owns what, because we don't want a situation where GMPC will come and say, we own it, so we are not giving it to you. Or GNGC will say, we are the ones who are managing it. And BOST will say, we are the ones. It would bring confusion. Your question was on revenue. As I said, we have earned nearly what? 985 million, nearly a billion.
700.
Well, to date, we've earned about 1.4 billion from our oil revenue, which is good. I have always said, and I've always been against, and it's a personal opinion, I've always been against the collateralization of our oil revenue. I've always been against it. I felt that what we should do is to sit down and look at those areas that have a high return in terms of revenue. So, we produce gold. We don't have a gold refinery in Ghana. Let's invest in the gold refinery. Railways would open up the whole country, would be able to bring in a lot of minerals. Our bauxite, we have tons of bauxite in the north. We will be able to bring in bauxite, even to field our smelter and all these things. Those are the areas for me which have a high return.
So you can even loan the money and pay back.
We can even pay back. We can even loan the money and pay back. Agriculture is key. In terms of even our water bodies, it is key to be able to do irrigation. Look, the north, they are interspersed with water bodies everywhere. We should invest in that. Rice. How much do we spend in rice? Over 500 million. We should invest in that. Those kinds of projects will give high return. At the present moment, we can't do any of that because of what we've done with our oil revenue. With the new oil discoveries we're having, let's please look at it and let's please sit. And I beg, it is not politics. We should not do MPP, NDC, CPP, PNC politics with this kind of infrastructure or this kind of resource we've got. Because in the end, we would not then leave our children with anything. And the question you asked when you were doing your program on Joy today, would we have left anything for our children to inherit if we do not start doing the right things now?
Kwame, thank you very much. Doctor, thank you very much. That's all time will allow us. I think. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you for watching. My name is Anasako, and as I say, tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. Thank you.